Newsfirst, NewsLine with Faraz Shaukatali.
And a wonderful morning to you. This is NewsLine, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo and broadcasting on TV1, part of the Capital Maharaj Group. And this morning, to discuss a little bit more on the impact and the concerns of the new Foreign Exchange Act is Mr. Duminda Hulangamuwa, Senior Partner at Ernst & Young. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Faraz. Good morning.
Now then, there is widespread concern for this new Foreign Exchange Act. And some of them are, there's about four allegations or concerns. And that is that the new law decriminalizes violations and allows monies held abroad to be brought back easily and without account. The other one is that the money laundering could take place easily, and the tax on any monies brought is just 1%. We are told that money laundering costs very much more than 1%. That money laundering has a washing fee of around between 15 and 20%, depending how dirty the money is. And then that international terrorism, by that same token, could be funded easily. And that's a big concern. It has to be. And that black money could come to the country easily. Now then, if we look at that first one, that the new law decriminalizes violations, why is that essential? Why decriminalize something if something's wrong?
Yeah. So for us, you see, we say that the law is decriminalizing current offences under the old Act.
Yeah.
Is because we are looking at it from a relative concept.
Yeah.
That is, in the previous Act, it was a criminal offence to violate the Exchange Control Act.
Yeah.
I guess the reason at that time, when the economy was closed, where foreign currency was very precious for us, and the means of earning foreign currency were very limited. I mean, there were times where you could only take a few as $3 or $4 when you're going overseas. So in that era, preserving foreign currency was given utmost priority by the governments, successive governments. So I think, in my view, a violation of an exchange control law where you keep monies abroad without bringing it to Sri Lanka, or you violate some other procedure by remitting money out without proper approval, need not be a criminal offence. In my view, it's a civil offence. So, for example, if you take the income tax law or the VAT law, now violating a tax law by not paying the tax due is not a criminal offence. So the respective law statutes provide for penalties to be imposed if tax is not being paid on time. There are procedures given to recover outstanding taxes. Only if you look at the New Millennium Act also, 10 million rupee fine is imposed if there is dishonesty or if there is malicious intent proved to defraud the revenue. So that the criminalizing part is at a very extreme level. So I think, in my view, it is good to remove the criminalization part of the exchange control law.
Yes, I take your point. But rather like the laws against the narcotics laws here, they have it in stages, don't they? If it is up to so many grams, it's something. And if you've got more, it's then deemed to be that you are trafficking in it. You're trading in it. And if you're charged under that sort of section of the laws, then those are very severe, and they are completely designed to be a full deterrent, because you get locked up, no bail, and so on, and maybe even the death penalty and so on. So they have different stages. So why can't we have the same in this, where if there is evidence that this is a continuous process, that various people have been accumulating money, foreign exchange outside, away from the reach of the Sri Lankan government and the taxes here, because they're not paying any taxes on that. then why not have a separate law to deal with such sort of premeditate? Do you know what I mean?
Correct,
there's a difference between somebody taking out $1,000 or 10,000 by mistake, and he didn't think that it was that, and so okay.
So that's correct. So as I told you earlier, or in one of my previous discussions in this channel, is that you have different statutes to handle different offences. There is no requirement for all the violations of the law to be handled through the exchange control. Now, if a person is stashing money abroad without bringing to Sri Lanka, there can be few reasons. One is that he doesn't want to pay his taxes on that. Two, the money must be through ill-gotten means. Now, if the person is keeping the money overseas because he doesn't want to pay his taxes, there is income tax law, VAT law, under which you can prosecute the person and get the money and pay his taxes. If there is, even under this law, if there are offences under the Bribery Act or under the Terrorism Financing Act, then those offences will be punished under those respective laws. In my view, an exchange control law should facilitate the free movement of funds. And how can free movement of funds take place? So if people have no fear that their money cannot be taken out, then they will always send their money into the country. You see, now what we really lack, the real stumbling block in the last few years or many years is for Sri Lankan companies to go overseas and to invest overseas.
And then they must be able to take advantage.
That's right. So I think, so in this law they have provided up to $2 million for a public quota company to take overseas without prior approval from the controller. But if you want a higher amount, you have to go to get the approval from the controller. Of course, now they don't use the word controller, this direct of foreign exchange. So to that extent, the free movement of capital is facilitated, the process is given. So Sri Lankan companies can go overseas and invest and then prosper overseas. And so when they know the money can come into the country and go out of the country without any restriction, then I think the fear is removed. The fear psychosis is removed. But of course, I won't say 100% of the monies that are undisclosed will come because of this law, because they may be chargeable under different statutes.
But also, Mr. Hulangamuwa, it's like this. There will be some people who've collected money abroad, and now they say, well, bring it back. And perhaps one of the reasons that they haven't brought it back is that, they bring it back and they're even happy to pay the taxes. But the problem is that when they want to use it in foreign currency, they've got to then pay a premium again to the central bank to buy this foreign exchange to pay for something abroad, maybe their investments and so on, whereas they've had the foreign exchange in the first place. They're not borrowing that money, it's their money. But when it comes to paying outside, and now, of course, the new act is giving them up to $2 million.
For a public quota company, and then it goes down for private companies of individuals.
Yes, but there are lots of privately held companies that would give the public companies, the listed companies, a run for their money. And they hold it privately for different reasons.
The thing is, I'm sure any law can't cater and cure all the problems. Right? So, law is drafted on the basis citizen is honest. So, if there are people who still prefer to keep monies overseas because they feel that by bringing it, it's as you said, it has a love going through and disclosure.
This Exchange Control Act came up in 1953. So what is it, about 47, 54, 64 years later, most people who've been in business on their private account are either dead or looking for that one-way ticket soon, right? So they've got used to, in that whole lifetime of working and making money and so on, they've got used to, rather comfortable, having this money out because they have the flexibility to deal with it.
Yes, certainly. If you take countries like Singapore or Hong Kong or Dubai, those countries where there is no control of any sort whatsoever, moving money around is very easy. So there may be, as I told you, segment that might still prefer to keep it overseas or bringing it here because Sri Lanka still has controls in this state also. Now to answer your the other question with regard to purchasing property, this statute as well as the previous law under Gazette permitted Sri Lankans who have foreign currency in RFC accounts or whatever to remit monies overseas to purchase any property that they wish to. So that facility was there even on the previous act, and now this law also permits that. But as I told you, I mean, I don't think you can cure all the problems. I mean, there will be those who prefer and feel comfortable keeping it overseas.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many Sri Lankans who have properties abroad, right? So, I mean, I don't think they all went through legitimate means. So those people will continue to keep it there. But of course, if they want to rectify their past, there's always provision under this law, an amnesty granted, sort of an amnesty, where they can come forward and say, this is what money that I had held abroad or property I held abroad, and I'm prepared to pay 1% of this to the Commissioner General if the amount exceeds $1 million. And then with that you rectify your past sins. But only thing is, this act is open-ended in terms of when you can do it.
Right.
I mean, even if after 10 years if you do it, still you're relieved from your past offences.
There are some people getting messages in, and thank you for sending messages, who say that one person says those persons who kept monies overseas knew it was a criminal offence. Removing the criminality backdated is only to help their cronies, rather like the tax amnesty the last UNP government had, only to be overruled by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Do you think that's the suspicion here, that this is a crony-based? Does your skepticism go that far?
No, it doesn't go that far. The reason I know that even the previous government was trying to reform the exchange control regulation in the law. In fact, this process of reform the exchange control commenced as far back as 2002-03 under the previous UNP government, where they want to bring Exchange Management Act. Whether it is to absolve their cronies from any offences, I have no idea, but it might happen as a result. But of course, in this law, if you see that if there is any investigation that has commenced in a court of law, they will be dealt under the old law. So criminality will be there. Plus, in investigations, they commence not in the court of law. If the central bank has committed investigation, then that also will be dealt under the previous act. So that safeguard has been given. But of course, this has an amnesty for the past sins. So there is an element where if you have not commenced investigation, then you can pay the tax and get out of it. But still, you can be charged under the Bribery Act, and you can be charged under the Money Laundering Act. Also, you can be charged under the...
I'm glad that you've brought up.
So which means that even if you had ill-gotten means, if you have taken money through bribes or whatever and stashed it overseas, you might get exemption from the exchange control criminality, but you can be charged under those statutes. So that is why I feel that people who have made money, who's keeping it overseas through ill-gotten means, will not comply with the amnesty, because then you can be charged under the Bribery Act as well as the Terrorism Financing Act. And money laundering, if investigation is commenced, that law also will continue. So there is, to that extent, the protection is there.
And the other concern is that, okay, fine, point taken on that. And, you pay 1% and so on. But then another concern is that, it's a little bit lopsided, because you look at these laws now, the new liberalization, if you like, but then what about when companies and individuals, or a combination of the two, when they rob things like EPF and the central bank, and we fix the system? What's that? Where's the criminality for that then?
So I think whatever...
I've tried my best not to mention the word bond. But
no, you can mention it, because I have not sort of got involved in the deep study of the issue, but I've seen following your programs.
There's no study, Mr. Hulangamuwa. It was just straightforward robbery. Carry on.
So on the EPF, ETF, if people have robbed the EPF, ETF, or people have robbed the money out of the EPF, ETF, which belongs to the people, I think they should be prosecuted. There's no there's no doubt. I am a professional in practice. So I believe that if someone has committed an offence, then the person must be tried under the laws of the country. There's no reason not to charge them. And those whatever criminal offences a person has committed can be charged under the penal code independently. So whether there is even if you are absolved from the exchange control violation, you can still be charged under those statutes as I mentioned to you earlier.
Indeed.
And offence is an offence. I believe.
The offence is an offence, and that's the whole problem. We had a statement which is rather worrying for me, because I've had time to digest it now, and that is because that refers to the Prime Minister's answers to the Bond Commission. In there, he says that, look, this is all done, this departure from procedure, the established procedure, where they change the system, all right? He explains it away, almost flippantly, but not quite. He says that this was all part of a liberalization policy, economic liberalization policy that went back to 1977. Okay, but then you've had over 40 years to fix the blessed system so that the incoming governor of the central bank has got a system. And then later it transpires that did you tell him about the policies? No, he would have known about the policy. That doesn't absolve from the fact that there was a black and white rule book. Rather like this Exchange Control Act, we had a rule. When they stash money outside the reach of the taxman, they knew it was a criminal offence. Now, several years later, they've got a government almost amenable to them saying, all right, just pay us 1%. What do you mean 1%? If you had to do it illegally, it would have cost you 15 to 20%.
Yeah, so I think there are two issues here. Yeah, the central bank bond is an independent issue from the exchange.
No, yes, I know. I'm talking about government policies
so
as a whole.
Yeah, so the exchange control amnesty is given, I think, with the objective. I don't know. One is the objective is to bring the monies that people have kept outside Sri Lanka into the country, probably the intention of building up our reserves. Yeah. Because if you don't get amnesty, they will not bring, is probably the theory. I know in 2002-03 also, when the amnesty was granted, a lot of money came into the country. But whether that is the best thing, I personally don't think so, because I am also a person in tax practice. Yeah. So I believe that a person who doesn't pay his taxes, and then later on, and they are then they get the people who are paying taxes. Yeah. Then you say, okay, you didn't pay taxes, so we are going to give an amnesty and forget the past. Right. So how do you compare the person who has paid his taxes? So
but paid less.
Yeah, or paid less, whatever. So I think an amnesty, in my view, is not the best thing. It's not a moral thing.
Counterproductive?
It may not be counterproductive in this sense. I mean, from economic point of view, it may be productive in the sense that monies will come in. Yeah. Right? But from a moral standpoint, well, yes, it is not the best thing, because then you say, okay, what about the people who have paid the taxes in the past? Then what is the recognition you give them? When you say the others were not paid, okay, forget about it. So if governments give amnesty every 10-15 years, then people lose confidence in the system. So that can happen. That
can happen indeed. And let's go for a short break. We'll come back and discuss the morals and the taxes all together. Don't go away. This is Newsline.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back. And lots of questions coming in, many. And one of them is, how much can a private company invest abroad without the permission of the now Director of Exchange Control?
Yes. So as per the regulations published last week, up to $500,000 a private company can take for investment overseas.
Right, $500,000. That's the answer.
That's the answer, yes.
Another one here. This is from one of our very regular viewers, Peggy. Peggy says here, they may convert money exchange like the Undio system. Well, what Peggy's saying is that the Undio system, which is this sort of underground system of changing money, will continue anyway. And
yes, using the underground system of converting money can happen for 2 or 3 reasons. Yeah. One reason is that in the import trade it happens when you under-invoice and import items and you pay less duty. There you have to find a mechanism of emptying that money out. Yeah. So the underhand money exchange takes place because of that reason. Right. 2, when there are restrictions in taking money overseas for purchase of property, especially land and housing, then the underhand system will continue. And also a migration also takes place, because what you can take as a migrant is still limited to $30,000 per annum. So if someone wants to take the money overseas, I think the underground system works. So I think those are the instances. I think those may continue. I don't know. It's not necessarily connected to exchange control or getting exchange or lack of exchange. It can be ill-gotten money that you want to stack abroad. So there can be many reasons for the underground system to operate like any other country, I'm sure.
It'll probably go on. And
yeah.
what do you think of the, as a tax consultant and so on, what's your view? Do you help people avoid paying taxes, or do you help people to reduce their tax liability as legitimately as possible, obviously?
Yes. Yes, certainly, the firm that I represent, we have an international code of ethics that we have to stand by. Plus the Institute of Chartered Accountants, where I'm a member, we have codes of ethics. But independent of all those codes, morally, I personally and our firm, we do not give any advice for tax avoidance.
But reduction is fine.
Reduction, for example, if someone asks where can I invest, and you get opportunities where the rates are less, where there are tax exemptions, tax holidays. But even internationally, the tax avoidance is a criminal offense, and no one does it. None of the big firms do it. In Sri Lanka, if you look at the New Inland Revenue Act, even reduction is limited to an extent, because it says that if the dominant purpose of any exercise is to reduce your income tax liability, then that transaction can be disregarded by the assessor. So that's going to a very, very great extreme of anti-avoidance.
You know, Mr. Hulangamuwa, I've been thinking about this, and if you remember sometime in the past, when this government was sort of newish on the block, if you like, there were claims, and Mr. Arjuna Mahendran, certainly after a visit to Saudi Arabia, came back saying that millions, and I think he said millions, I'm not sure if he said billions, but millions of dollars would come in investment. Then we had another scenario where the best finance minister in South Asia, Mr. Karolakis, said that a Belgian, it was reported in some places that it was Belgian, but when somebody asked him if it was Belgian, he said, who said Belgian? But he said so many things and then denied it. But anyway, the point is, he said that some investor is going to bring $1 billion in. I was wondering whether he was waiting for this Foreign Exchange Act to come into play, because then, you see, $1 billion could be brought in. All you have to do is pay 1%. No,
the $1 billion, if it came through a non-resident, non-citizen, you have to pay the 1%, because if a foreigner wants to invest into the country, both under the current law and the previous law, a foreigner can come and always invest $1 billion. Only thing is, when you are making investment, your bank in Sri Lanka should, under their know customer policy, know from where the money is coming and who the investor is. So if a non-resident or non-citizen wants to invest in the country, you can always bring money in. There was no restriction, provided you can satisfy from where you got it with your bank. But what this absolves you is, if a Sri Lankan citizen has money overseas and he wants to bring it, then by paying the 1%, he can make a declaration and say, this is under this law, you're making a declaration, and I'm paying the 1%.
But, you know, does it also not concern you that the minister in charge of the subject of the central bank, for the moment, let's just forget that that person happens to be Mr. Wickremesinghe, as in Ranil Wickremesinghe, but the minister's powers have been considerably widened. It's almost dangerous, because, you know, there's one situation here, in the event of any wrongdoing, right, and if you're unhappy with something, the whole process, you know, you have to, I'll just read this out from my legal section, right? In the event of any wrongdoing by an authorized dealer, a restricted dealer, or other party, because there are special dealers, which is decided on by the minister, they can only be dealt with after informing the minister. Even thereafter, the wrongdoer can appeal to a board of inquiry, the members of which are appointed by the same minister. You're the judge, jury, and everything else.
No, I don't think the minister will sit on the inquiry and pass judgment. Now, if you look at, if you look at the current exchange control laws, there is, it's all powers are vested with the minister. The control of exchange, that's under the old law, only had the power to issue regulations under the law to administer the act. So I think if you look at this law also, it's the administration, the act that is being given to the Director of Exchange and the Central Bank. but the act itself, approval levels are with the minister.
Right.
So, but the appointment of, for example, if you look at even the Tax Appeals Commission law and income tax law, the members to the commission are appointed by the minister.
Right.
But he is not a part in the hearing or the judicial process.
Right.
So even in this act, the appointment is made by the minister of the panel inquiry, but then the investigation into it is done by the investigation panel and the conclusion of the judgment. So minister doesn't get involved in the determination or the running of the inquiry at all.
Right, except in that the minister does appoint.
Minister does appoint, like most statutes, the minister is the one that appoints the, even if the Supreme Court, the appointed by the president.
This is the bane of society when there's one person who has to appoint them. Because I can just tell you quickly, touching on the United National Party's constitution, the working committee is appointed mainly by the leader of the party. Then you can't really seriously expect those people to vote against him at some issue, unless they've all got backbones of solid stainless steel. Anyway, I just thought I'd point that out, because that's the problem. You know, because there's all this patronage going on. So if they appoint you, you see, it's like the Rajapaksas. They appointed Sarath Fonseca as the army commander, and then decided that he was nothing more than their dog's body, and they wanted the adulation, and he had to do as he was told. The minute he raised his head, they got upset about it, shoved him in prison. Maybe an extreme thing, but somebody's asking me, the $500,000 investments per year, is that per year or is it a lifetime?
Yes, I can't remember the regulations often, it is per year. But for individual, it's lifetime.
Oh, for an individual, it's lifetime.
Yeah.
But if you form yourself a little company, then
yes, I can't remember offhand the 500,000. I didn't the regulations with me.
You
I
need to look.
I need to look at them. Yes.
You can tell our viewers.
But it's very clearly there in the regulations. If you look at, you can tell your viewers that the regulations are published on the web.
Right.
And in the regulations, very clearly it says how much you can take and
yes,
how often you
the
can take.
The point that I just brought up is one of our viewers is also saying that if a minister appoints, surely he can influence his appointees.
Yeah, well, for any law is that right?
Yes.
You have to take into account the minister will not act in a manner that is prejudicial to the intent of the law. So if you look at any statute in this country, it is the minister that appoints whoever it is. Even for example, other than what goes to the Constitutional Council, those appointments are all by the minister.
Maybe, Mr. Hulangamuwa, it's a good idea then to have the executive president as well, because he could be casting a benign look there and say, oh, hang on, no, I don't like that, like he did in the matter of the central bank.
Yeah. So in that case, then all the laws would have to. It's practically not possible, I think. So I think we had to. So if this is not something new. Historically, most appointments in Sri Lanka are made by a minister. If you take any corporation or any board or whatever, the minister is the one that appoints, and the moment the minister, the government changes, the new board comes in. So so I think it's anything new in my view. Yeah.
So, are you hopeful that this Foreign Exchange Act is good news in keeping with the liberalization of our economic policies?
Yeah, it's a good thing for the reason that historically, there are a lot of bottlenecks in the exchange control flow of money going in and out.
Yeah.
There are difficulty companies face. For example, to even send a small remittance other than what is in the current account, to go to the exchange control, spend weeks and months to get approvals.
So all those
things have been removed, and this will be made straightforward. The only thing is, you can always talk for and against about whether it's good to get amnesty or not. Morally, I think it's incorrect. But if the economy needs money, then of course you have to bring in the money in some form. So
well, thank you very much for being on Newsline, Mr. Hulangamuwa. But I'd also want to point out to you that the last time, some months ago, when they decided to liberalize everything and let the market find its own way and so on, that's when the central bank bond issuance saw a substantial and significant increase in the rate that was awarded, and it must have been a coincidence that just one company got about 50% of what was taken up. But in the meantime, the Foreign Exchange Act is the subject of discussion tonight on TV1 at 9:30 on Face the Nation, where Sonali Wanigabadige will be hosting a program. Do tune in straight after the news at 9:30. Mr. Hulangamuwa, thank you very much for being on Newsline, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
That's about it from Newsline. Take care and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.